have the desire. They're putting in some serious infrastructure here, man. They've put these blocks in and filling it with dirt, developing a foundation for something. Something serious. I have a desire to get on the train and go to some other landscape and ride. Not far from here, up towards Coimbra Way. I think that'd be nice. As beautiful as things are here, you still long for some novel, something new to look at. The long rides are tough because of just the butt soreness, the saddle soreness of it. After so many hours, it's very hard to sit in the saddle, no matter how much padding you're using. I just don't have enough of that youthful muscle on my butt that I used to have. There's a lot of really good content creators on YouTube that write well and present well complex ideas in philosophy and economics and political philosophy, things I'm interested in, history, geography. It's pretty interesting. It's a lot more interesting than a lot of the usual kind of hot shots. But it's hard for, I don't know, good content gets a lot of views, and I'm always glad to see that. But there's still a lot of noise out there. But I don't think that at the end of the day, it's gonna really help much. Just like the social media attention that has been driven by mainstream media's neglect to cover current events in honest ways. And it sounds so boring and cliche, but it's all corporate interests at play. And so, if you don't go along with the capital, with the owners, and what they actually really want in their interest, if you go against their interest or what they perceive to be their interest, you have no place. So that's why a lot of these New York Times, Economist, Bloomberg are staffed by young people hoping for a shot at a better, arriving at a better layer in the corporation where they can make decent living. And then all the good people who still have integrity and do hard work, they're driven to alternative media platforms, and then they're forced to ask all of their followers for money. You tally up all your subscriptions to everything, including normal stuff like Google services and Apple services and entertainment, Netflix or gaming or whatever it is you're into, plus your subscriptions to journalists that you trust, it's a lot of money, and most people can't afford that. And I would venture to say that most people just aren't that interested in thinking too hard about stuff. So it's still a lot easier to go to mainstream media and just feel a bit informed about what's going on in the world and call it a day and get back to work. So I sometimes get the feeling, I don't want to be cynical about it, but I sometimes get the feeling like late stage capitalism's in its last period, and the players, the real capitalists, know about this. Not the bourgeois capitalists, the petty business person, whatever, investor, 401k owner. But the real players know it's late stage, and the name of the game is just to be the last trillionaire standing. I don't think they think much further than that, because the whole idea is to maximize profit as quickly as possible. If you listen to some people, like I was listening to this packaging tycoon from Texas, talking about alternative packaging, circular economies, donut economies, recycling, blah, blah, blah. They never really take into account all the inputs that are required to maintain the feedstocks, the materials that they need for packaging. And also they need to sell a lot of packaging to be in business. It's a privately held company, so it's not a public company, so they have less pressure from shareholders. But still, you have to think about all the energy that goes into creating packaging, the supply chain, logistics. So it's nice to think about things other than trees, like kelp and hemp, to derive feedstocks, inputs for making packaging. But at the end of the day, we're still in this growth mentality. So even if you give lip service to, we're living in a limited, on a planet with limited resources and so on, everybody still has the innovation mindset, entrepreneurial, tech-driven optimism about, we'll sort it all out with clever people. But then we can't really decide to regulate monopolies, antitrust. So we're up against that all the time. If you do innovate, you're going to be bought out by somebody whose real motive is financialized capital returns. So it's a vicious a bit of business. And no matter how optimistic you want to be, at this scale, using energy the way we do, it's going to be really hard to make these things work within structures, legal structures and systems, institutions of late stage global capitalism, financialized capitalism, unregulated, so on and so forth, neoliberal. So if you talk about socialism or something, some alternative, you're really looking at defining it in new ways, 21st century ways, early 21st century ways, under the set of circumstances that include climate issues with biodiversity, mass extinction, all these things, just consumerism and these values and so on. So you'd have to say, how do we have a partnership, cooperative, collectivist solutions to our challenges while maintaining healthy competition, creativity, a certain amount of individualism and free thought, inventiveness, and so on. I think it can be done, but of course it's a cultural project, and those are the most difficult. And obviously it can't be done through violence. So the kind of revolution that we'd need, it would be nonviolent, but we don't have time for that. And the neoliberal class are comfortable with violence. It's profitable for them. State violence in the form of regime change wars or proxy wars or police actions, just the usual coercion required by empire and so on. And it has a psychological toll on some people who think about it. Most people in the kind of capitalist realism sense, the Fisher sense, have been so utterly programmed, I wouldn't say brainwashed, because from the day they were born, this is all they've known. Today, most people alive, there's few people alive who can remember when America wasn't the top dog. And, even if you are old enough to remember the Soviet Union and Maoist China, still, the USA has been the top dog globally. And it's a naval culture as opposed to the Eurasia thing that Alexander Dugin talks about a lot, which makes sense because it's one big continent. And if you had cooperation among diverse nation states with diverse cultures and approaches to their social life, and you could cooperate, you could play the game fairly, fending off the multipolar traps and the Molochs. So at the end of the day, you're talking about all these ifs that's pretty hard to achieve, all of them, when you're talking about people. They're just people. So I don't know where this goes, and I'm curious about it. So it's hard to imagine that human beings are going to just kind of fall into it in some miraculous way. Benevolent leader comes along and people just get the way he communicates or she communicates or it communicates. There's a lot of magical thinking that everyone employs to defend their beliefs and their biases. But I don't know that the online education's going to work. There has to be some cultural continuity, some underpinning ethos, ethic, philosophy that people kind of agree upon, that makes sense to the larger population, so that you have that certain identity. Right now in the States, it's just, USA, America number one. We don't like people who aren't like us or don't want to be like us. It's that thing where, what, you don't like my music? Well, fuck you. Oh, look at it. Big, huge lemon grove. Wow. Check that out. Do you need some lemonade? Wow. It's the biggest lemon grove I've seen around here. I see a lot of lemon trees, but this is the real production here. So, yeah, it's that thing where it's like, what, you don't like, the bird, or you don't like, this kind of jazz, or you don't like my political ideology or something. Well, you can just go suck it, because you're an idiot. People get really defensive because they identify with a certain crowd, and if you're not into it like I'm into it, then somehow you're just not good to me. Oh, this is nice. See, I've wondered about this road many times, because I've come in from the other side and seen this road coming down and wondered where it originated from. Now I know. Isn't that exciting? So people have that mentality, to really read Alexander Dugin, and he's a Russian, and he's like one of Putin's support people. And Putin's the devil, right? You can't do it. You can't honestly look at the information and read and think about it and wonder, what are the good elements of it? What are the things that aren't so good? And what do I understand, agree with, and what don't I understand and don't agree with? Most people wouldn't even think of trying to do that. You have to be kind of a weirdo like me. I mean, there are a lot of people who do, but not not compared to people who, listen to Andrew Tate or something. So yeah, to learn that and to kind of like decide that you're gonna live and let live, as long as it's not destructive to life on Earth and to people in general, and doesn't cause instability or doesn't wreck folks. Because it is a fact that, the North has looted the South for hundreds of years in so many ways. It's just a fact. And we owe some of our privilege and wealth and the opportunity to develop technologies and different ways of life and capitalism and so on that looting, that exploitation and colonialism and all that. So, we could say, well, I recognize that, and I know it's true. So now what can we do to give back? Besides getting angry with people who don't want to be American enough. So I read yesterday that the U.S. and its coalition partners, UK and all the usual suspects, are thinking it's going to be a good idea to invade Yemen. Well, of course, invading Yemen is great fun, because they're such a weak country compared to the coalition of the willing. So it'll be easy to go in there and kill people and do daring raids and send the special forces in and make movies about when one or two of them got killed by the savages, as usually happens, right? So everyone will be happy with that, because, you're getting back at those assholes that don't want to be American enough. And we're winning until we leave, which we always do. I'm saying we because I'm an American. And then, life goes on and people still hate us. Like, obviously it's so controversial to think that Yemen would want to do something in support of the P word, the group of people in the Middle East that I cannot name, because I'll be doxxed and bullied and censored and blackballed, and people, first thing that they hear that word, that's it. It's like, turn off the video, Oh my God. Yeah, maybe you've heard enough about the slaughter, and it's boring now, and let's move on. But it is what it is. So if they attack capital, and I mean, Western business of the North, America's business, then that's just, that's a capital sin. I mean, capital sin as in capital punishment. and a sin against capital as in American capital, or the business interests of the United States. So yeah, you got to go in and kill those people. And it's a lot harder to say I'm a patriot and I think Russian people should all die, and we're gonna have to go against this country or that country because they're not American enough. And then you put up or shut up. You decide, well, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna join the United States military, get some training, and then I'm gonna be willing to ship off to Ukraine and fight for democracy and freedom. We don't have to talk about the total farce that democracy and freedom is when it's arbitrated by the United States. Anyway, for some people, they just will never understand that, which is just the way it is. I find that tragic. But anyway, the bottom line point of it all is that people aren't going to get this stuff because they don't want to, or they disagree with it, or whatever. So we're kind of stuck with what we have here. And the basic faith is that it's okay because innovators and business people and so on will come along and invent businesses that'll fix things, and the market and the customers and all that magic will happen. And actually it's just been proven wrong very quickly within a couple hundred years. It doesn't work like that, even though it does bring people out of poverty. Look what happened in China. A kind of, I know this isn't accurate, but a socialized capitalism brought a lot of people, hundreds of millions of people out of poverty. And I'm not saying China's perfect, but when things are done in a certain way, it can be very beneficial to people. And there's no reason to think that if things are done in a certain way, it could be very beneficial to life on Earth, to the overall, health of the natural environment, and so on. So it's frustrating to me to realize that nothing I have to do or say can ever make a difference. And most of the wonderful people out there on alternative media platforms producing incredibly good content, in my opinion. Your mileage may differ, you may disagree with who I follow, that maybe they're not. I try to look up critiques of people that I become enamored with online, It's like, who's pushing back against this person that I seem to find makes so much sense. But that's just a discipline that I'm cultivating because I know how easily fooled I am. But nothing anybody does is going to really make a big difference. It's not going to tip the scales. Yeah, this is something new too. I'll just do it. Yeah, nothing's going to really tip the scales, I don't think. And again, it's like, this is boring. I've said it too many times, so I probably should just shut down all of my YouTube and start, selling something. Go back to my IPMA business, selling good products for nomad people and expats and so on. and making content for those folks and monetizing the hell out of it. You know? Because this isn't going to make a difference. What's going to happen, as I meant to say a minute ago, is things are going to get very ugly, and it's because of physics more than ideology. And then, of course, human beings are going to do what they usually do, which is get pretty ugly when things get difficult. When things get tough, the tough get ugly. And you can talk about authoritarians on the right, authoritarians on the left, who's more destructive. One thing's for sure, like the alt-center, the alt-sensible, get crushed. You know, they just wake up one morning wondering why their neighbor hates them all of a sudden. It's just shocking. We were all good. We lived together. We lived next door for 30 years. And now, you know, that kind of thing. And then the uniformed clique comes along. I mean, to me, this, you know, the last couple of years, I mean, 2008 was a wake-up call for me. I started becoming much more interested in politics after that debacle. And I was listening to Bill Moyer's journal and things like that. And then you think things might bounce back, and you go into the whole Trump syndrome era, which was an insanity that really broke me up. I was still watching mainstream media then, and it was just insanely stupid to watch. But I was caught up in it because I don't like that style of con man, you know, the greed, the narcissism, because it's what I consider American culture to be about, is this kind of rugged individualism and narcissism, and as long as I'm maximally selfish, everything will be great for the world. Ayn Randian type stuff, libertarianism, neoliberalism, that kind of thing. And then, you know, just seeing like the absolute king of that, those values, you know, it's just disgusting. But, you know, people are saying, well, you might have some good policies, you know, lower your taxes, something like that. And it's like, oh yeah, that'll make everything great. And most people are like either too weak in many ways, or too comfortable to care about shifting anything, you know. For them, everything's just fine. What are you talking about? Things are great. I bought a bottle of whiskey today, or I went out on my boat fishing, whatever. Things are great, you know. Went to the strip club, or I went to the yoga studio. It's all good. And that's fine. And you can still watch the system, the global system, loot the rest of the world without feeling bad about it. And if people start to starve to death somewhere, you can buy a concert ticket and assuage your guilt, if you have any, you know. So after that, you kind of think, well, this gradualism, this idea that, well, without going to Aristotle or Plato, that type of essence, or the Hegelian type of thing, or Marx, or the end of history like Fukuyama style or whatever, this teleology, you know, you still have a sense, or I had a sense, that things could gradually get better. Just because, you know, we had more data, better information, more signal, less noise, but it didn't turn out that way. Like all these wonderful things got co-opted by the capital machine, and then they just become cancerous. And you start to wonder how quietly and stealthily they come after your money. You know, you will have everything and own nothing. And community shifts and quality of relationships. Yeah, so if you have the Trump syndrome, and that's insanity. I didn't think Biden was going to help us at all because I was horrified by how Obama sold out. And I know Clinton, Biden are hawks, warmongering, maniacs who take money from all the worst people to keep their careers going. And so whatever, maybe Biden will be better than Trump, and then you have this absurd idea that Biden's the new Roosevelt or whatever. Meanwhile, you're having this COVID thing. So Trump goes out of office during COVID and Biden comes in during COVID, and that's a shit show because it's not managed too well. I mean, we did as well as we could, I guess, based on the fact that these kind of pandemics are fuzzy. You don't really know how they're going to play out. And so you have to kind of figure it out as you go along. But anyway, still, it probably could have been better. I wonder if we're going to learn anything and figure out how to do better next time. Or if, we're just going to forget all these lessons and just improvise next time and see what happens. So I don't have much faith that we learned a whole heck of a lot. We may have some new technologies that are helpful, but I think the incentives are still really messed up. So you go through the whole pandemic thing, which is devastating to many people, not to mention the millions of lives lost. You always have to realize that no matter how annoying it was for you, some people lost family and friends. And that's a big deal. And we should have some empathy and some compassion for people. So that whole thing passes over, and you're like, well, I thought, 2019, you get out of the whole insanity Hong Kong thing with the U.S. juiced up democracy movement over there that was not very well thought through by its leaders. And I'm not going to demonize them or China. I'm just going to say they weren't thinking things through. So that was a whole mess, and you're thinking, I got to get out of the cluster fuck. It's part of the world that's just full of billions of people that are just people, so they can be very volatile, right? Something can happen and they can become very emotional and hijacked and get crazy. So get out of there. Then I came here and it's like, oh, this is perfect. And it was for about, 9 months until the COVID thing kicked in. And then right after the COVID thing lifts, I've been watching the Maidan revolution and looking at, how the U.S. manages its empire for quite a while. And you're like, oh boy, Putin's trying to make a point, putting the soldiers on the border, but he's not going to invade. So I don't care what you think about it. I've done my reading and I have my opinion on it. But doesn't matter. Then you have that problem, which increases inflation, energy costs. It ripples through the whole system and ruins lives in Germany and Austria and around Europe. Just wrecks everything. And we're not peacemakers anymore. We're not diplomats. We want to solve all our problems through war and violence and coercion and sanctions and banks and just bullshit. And so at the end of the day, it's a mess. This is a nice little village. Here's a nice little cafe. I know it's nice down there too, but I'm not going to go there today. So that really kind of wrecked Europe. And, you know, the neoliberal globe cap wants to just continue fighting these wars, you know, draw out the Gaza thing as long as possible. Oops, I said the word. Uh-oh. Draw out the Ukraine thing as long as possible. Because for some reason you can't stand those people. And I'm with Scott Ritter in the sense that if you're that patriotic and if you really think it's a threat to U.S. national security, grab your kit, join the regiment, and go over there and put your life on the line. Blood in, blood out. But we don't do that. We let other people do the dying. And basically, you know, hey, look, if you guys just keep fighting these people because we don't like them, they're not American enough. And we'll give you all the money you need. You just put the bodies on the line who are going to get slaughtered. Don't worry about our stuff. We'll build more stuff. We're not going to fight in a, you know, total war style because we don't know how to do that. We're going to get back into Yemen and fight an insurgency the way we know. General Petraeus. So it's sad, and it's just so destructive. Economically, it's terrible for the environment. It's terrible for people, for global health. It sends all the wrong signals to everybody around the world. People are having to draw up allegiances now. You know, we still get tons of Russian gas in Europe, but we get it through the back door. It has to go through other markets. That's the way oil and gas markets work anyway. And a lot of import-export is like labeled in really weird ways, you know, to get around tariffs and restrictions or to increase profits. So at the end of the day, the people are going to pay more. They're going to get crushed as usual. And if things get out of hand, you know, hundreds of millions of people are going to die. And it's going to be one of those things. And then we'll rebuild afterwards. Things will be better. But really? How long did it take after World War II for things to get better? I mean, you had some nice appliances and so on. You had your Barbie world, but in the 50s. But you had the Korean War, and millions of Koreans died in that. And then you had Vietnam. That was a real nasty bit of business. Both in Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia, but also domestically in the United States and in Europe, around the world. People were traumatized by it. Yeah, be a man, whatever. But it wouldn't be my priority, you know. But the domino theory, at the end of the day, you know, it serves power. It serves the big capitalist players. It keeps them whole, it keeps them growing, it keeps them their wealth going up. But it doesn't do that much for the rest of us. I mean, there was a time where you had a job for 10 or 20 years. But who's had that for a long time? Even in Japan, that's going away. This idea of lifetime employment, that was kind of a guaranteed thing. If you joined the club and you went along and you played properly, you were in for life.'d be taken care of. You know, you have your little tiny apartment somewhere in Saitama or wherever, and you're relatively okay. Predictable life. I mean, to me, a life like that would be, I would kill me, but I'm a different kind of person. I'd feel trapped, but I know my Japanese friends, they love their obligations. It defines them. It gives them identity and meaning and so on. So I'm not going to judge that or, you know, compare and contrast. I'm just different. But yeah, and it's funny too. You see all this weather, these bad weather in the state, and you know, the evangelicals, those communities are always so quick to say that, you know, whatever bad happens, 911 or anything, you know, it's God punishing us, or Satan did it. You know, it's like Satan did it or God's punishing us. Why? Well, because of this, that, or the other thing. Because of something we don't like, gay people or whatever. And I wonder, but nobody just, not enough people look at it and say, no, this is an issue with carbon and energy and politics and lifestyle and culture and all these things. No, that's bullshit, man. Come on, Bulliam T. It's about the woke mob, and God's punishing us for that. And the minute we have the right bathrooms and homeschooling for everyone, and or whatever it is, charter schools, whatever, and we all fit into a certain thing, and we have a benevolent leader, and we're following the rules, then all these things will go away, because God will be like, okay, there you go, you're living a righteous life now, you're good people. I just see good people getting hit by tornadoes, and they don't know why. And, you know, it's very hard to correlation, causation. It's really complicated to understand the complex mechanisms in the climate that would increase these types of events, and how they work, and how much weight to put on various causal elements, you know, other natural cycles and so on. But, you know, if you care, you can learn about that, and you can weight your opinion according to better information, you know, finer grained information. But anyhow, it's almost like it's time for apathy, you know? Just don't give a shit. I mean, of course, you know, I have lots of friends who are parents. Some friends started late in life, so their children are young. Some are less so, more normal. But, you know, you want to be optimistic for your kids, because the alternative to some kind of hopeful optimism is dread for the future, for your children. And this is a terrible thing. Which way do I want to go? Cabeza Alta? Cabeza Alta? No, I'll go this way. So obviously you're going to think, I just got to keep my shit together, keep making money, and be hopeful, look for the bright side, which is fine. I mean, I understand negativity bias. And I know that, hell sells. But we really do have problems, and it doesn't seem to me like it's getting better. So I don't see any trends that would tell me that, due to the fact that I know all these really great content producers in alternative media spaces, it's going to translate into a better educated public that's going to be able to coordinate and cooperate and partner across cultures to tackle some of the big issues and problems we have that are ongoing and that aren't going to go away by magic. So at some level, we're going to have to figure out how to work together to solve these problems. And everybody just being a selfish asshole isn't going to cut it. Unfortunately, it's not going to work. When I see, like Beyond Meat and Uber Meat or Healthy Meat or Big Meat or whatever, all these like lab-grown cultured meat products, it's like Theranos, it's like Elon Musk, it's a bunch of promises, and you rationalize it as an entrepreneur or a startup CEO as, well, we need the money because we can't do the R&D, we can't get there without the money, so we're going to have to raise the funds, we're going to have to tell a story that's going to be compelling to investors and the public, we're going to have to employ propagandists and PR people. I remember PR in the Silicon Valley back in the day, and advertisers and a whole slew of people to bring in the money, and we'll pay these people until the fact that we're not profitable ever and that our technology doesn't work finally comes out and the whole thing goes tits up. And investors are like, yeah, but it sounded so promising, and what's the alternative? I mean, you've got to back these things, but you can't just sit there and say, dude, go slow, because then you have the Mullick problem and the multipolar traps and Thucydides, all these things. And so unfortunately the game continues. The people keep bullshitting. Maybe they're not lying, maybe they're just bullshitting. But they're doing it because at the end of the day, you see, the point is, we're trying to solve world hunger. No, you're not. We're trying to save the environment. No, you're not. The environment doesn't work that way. We're trying to help animals. No, you're not. Animals have always been an integral part of human civilization, and we're just taking from nature and not giving back. We're not custodial. We're not good stewards. We don't take care of it. That's the problem. Our socioeconomic belief system, our religion, political philosophy, philosophic religion. But that's the gorilla in the room. You have the people and they watch a film and they don't notice the gorilla walking across the room, the guy in the gorilla suit. Well, it's so banal now, our way of life, that we don't notice the gorilla in the room. So we think that cultured meat's going to solve the problem. It's another one of these techno-optimistic silver bullets. No, it's not. Farming properly at the right scale, living within our means, that's economists. That's what economy is. Permaculture and proper animal husbandry, having a relationship with nature. Most people in the cities have no clue. They don't care. They buy packaged foods thanks to regulation and so on, to government. Don't make them sick and don't kill them because they're packaged properly and refrigerated and so on. thanks to oil, gas, chemistry. We have all this stuff, and we're relatively fortunate. We don't know how nature works, so we don't know about soil biology. We don't understand the intertwined, interconnected nature of things, and how important all life on Earth is to all life on Earth. So even though it's predatory and there's competition, nothing can exist without everything else. So there's also cooperation and giving back. The whale shit gives back. The waste that whales produce is completely efficiently used. And natural systems will find balance and stasis that are good for the natural system. Of course, it changes over time for many, many reasons. So naturally, the climate will change over time, whether we're here or not. But everything else kind of catches up and finds a new place and reboots again. But what we're doing in such a short time is putting that whole natural cyclical system at peril. And people can say, who cares, wreck it, big deal. We become machines or we die. That's life. That's the way it is. God gave us a brain for a reason, so we could upload it to the cloud. Well, if you did have some scalable, affordable, lab-grown meat products, it could be a good supplement to real food, but it wouldn't replace it. And where are the atoms coming from for your replicator? What are the feedstocks? And how much energy does the replicator need to turn gravel into salad or whatever? These are techno fantasies. And a lot of entrepreneurs prey on people. Of course they have good intentions. I'm not saying they don't. They probably really believe that lab-grown meat is going to solve world hunger or something. But I think what we're going to find out is it's not that simple. There aren't techno silver bullets or machine guns that are going to save us. 10,000 rounds a second of good ideas at my incubator will save the world. Y Combinator, whatever. No, it's not. We have to understand how the world really works in nature and understand ourselves and so on. And then we can figure out how best to live. But again, all the incentives are geared towards saying, forget about that. You're not going to take a haircut unless the Fed tells you to, or the law takes your computers and does forensics on your data and then decides it's going to give your company a haircut at the bank. I still hear people all the time saying, people in Africa and India want to live like Americans. So it would be terribly unfair to not allow them to be as stupid as we are. People have to be American enough. Well, I'm thinking that being too American is going to kill us all. It's going to lead to extinction of our species, our race. But, hopefully not. Hopefully when there's 5,000 left, something will come from that, and maybe it'll be slightly better next time. Who knows? Maybe not. We don't have any Neanderthals. Maybe we're too clever by half, and that's going to be our downfall. I think, I hate to say it, but I just feel like in my lifetime, and I'm an old geezer, I'm going to see it. You know, this train wreck. And I'm going to think, wow, I'm so fortunate to be old. You know, when they crush me at the end of the day, I will have lived maybe, who knows, 70 years. And I had a pretty damn good life. So much to be thankful for. And so why worry about it? And then I see all these beautiful young people creating such incredible content who are really earnestly trying to help and making a good living at it, the good ones. And, you know, it's like double down news, not double down news, ground news or whatever. People say, sponsored by Ground News, and it helps me so much understand what's really going on in the world. No, it doesn't. It just shows you all the mainstream media up against each other and how they target different niche markets in their, you know, in the world, and what language they use. It doesn't help you. I think you have to really delve into a subject fairly seriously to really understand it. It doesn't mean you have to get a PhD or whatever, but you have to work at it. And the best a normal idiot like myself can do is, you know, read books and try to figure them out and go slow. You know, look up the references, look up the words, and try to understand the concepts and try to understand the math, and then think about it a bit. But, you know, asking people to do that is just not realistic. You need quick books and audio books and crib notes and whatever they're called. This, that, and the other thing for dummies. Quick and easy. Look, dude, I just need this information so I can make another buck. I've got to improve myself so I can put myself in a better position in the marketplace for people, for labor, for work, for brain power. I want to be in the think tank. I want to be in the government, and then back into the corporation, and back into the think tank. And I want to be on tour talking about shit. Have a whole bunch of people help ghostwrite a really smart book for me. And then, you know, go on tour, talk about it, sign them. Get some attention. You know, I like Steven Pinker, but there are aspects of him that just really rub me the wrong way. And so I can't be like a super fan of any of these people. It's easy to talk to, you know, cherry pick information like he does, package it the way he packages it, and then say it's the best way. It's really a lot better than you think. Why? Because I happen to be a white, weird guy from Northern America, from Canada, who had a career at MIT and Harvard and other places. And, you know, it worked for me. So what are you people in Guinea-Bissau complaining about? Or or Congo or Western Australia? All you have to know is you get your paycheck and then you go to town and you can buy all the drugs and women you want. Yippee-yi-yo-ki-yay. So, all right, so that's it. I just have my doubts. So I guess all I can say to myself and everybody else is do what you gotta do, wanna do, and good luck. Boolean T out.